Welcome back to Archviz with Blender and Stable Diffusion. In this lesson, we are going to learn how to render images directly from within Blender using the AI Render plugin. And as you can see, I'm finally doing picture-in-picture. That is because creating this course has also been a learning experience for me, and only till now I learned how to do picture-in-picture with my capturing software. So I apologize for not being able to do it in the previous lessons. Hopefully I'll do it from now on. So let's begin with the homework. Remember, let's see how to use ControlNet with an SDXL model. So let's begin by launching WebUI Forge. Double click on your run bat file. I started getting this message ever since this morning, also on my Linux installation. So I think there was some sort of update that is requiring Xformers enabled by default. So to fix this, click on Enter to close. And now we're going to add the Xformers argument to our launch options. In Linux, you simply add the option in your terminal when launching WebUI Forge. Here in Windows, we need to go to WebUI, scroll down, and look for WebUI user bat file. Make sure it's the bat file and not the shell script. So right-click on the bat file and click on Edit. And here you will see a line that says set command line arguments. We're going to add --x formers and save your file. And now go back and launch WebUI Forge again. And now we got a WebUI Forge running in our browser again. So let's begin by selecting the Juggernaut Excel checkpoint, disable the VAE file. Let's do first the text to image process. So let's type in our prompt, which was modern farmhouse in the woods by a lake, blue sky. And in the negative prompt, bad quality, worst quality text, comma, watermark. Change the image size to 1024 by 1024 and scroll down to the ControlNet integrated section. Click on Enable, click on Pixel Perfect, and click on Allow Preview. And now let's load our base render image, which is going to be cabin render, the one with trees in the background. We're going to work with depth. Remember that with SDXL, not all of the 5 control nets we are using are available. So for this exercise, we're going to use depth. And immediately it selected depth metas as preprocessor and the model SciXL depth. Now run a quick checkup that everything is ready. And once you're ready, click on the explosion icon to generate the depth map. Now right-click and open in a new tab. And here you'll see we have a good depth map to work with. So now we can click on Generate. And here we have the XDXL result. So it's quite a nice image. And the control net, the depth control net we're using is doing a great job. So now let's do the image to image process. So here we have the prompt and the negative prompt. So go back to text to image and copy and paste positive prompt, then the negative prompt. And we can load our base render. Click to upload. We are going to use the same base image. Scroll down here, click on the ruler icon to grab the image size from the reference image. Scroll down and go to ControlNet integrated. So now we're going to click on Enable. We are going to click on Pixel Perfect, and we're going to select Upload Independent Control Image. So let's load our depth path, the one we generated with Blender and Krita, this one. Scroll down, and from the model dropdown, select Excel depth. After loading our depth path, go down and remember that in preprocessor, we don't need to select any depth preprocessor because we are providing the depth path, so select none. No need to click on the explosion icon because we already have the depth path here. So double check everything very quickly. And now we are ready to render our image generated using image to image. Click on generate. Here we got our render result. Very good. So let's go back to text to image and let's compare it with our image to image generated file. So they're both different because our seed is set to random, remember, with -1. So they should be different. The depth path generated automatically by WebUI Forge is very good, as well as using our own. So it's up to you which method you want to use. So let's close WebUI Forge. Control C to close the server. And let's begin by downloading the add-ons or plugins we're going to need for Blender. So open up your browser. And the first add-on we're going to download, it's called Blender Kit. So look for Blender Kit and select the first result. And Blender Kit is a website that offers assets that are completely optimized for Blender. So they got models, they got materials, HDRIs, scenes, etc., etc. So click on download Blender Kit, download Blender Kit again. Remember that plugins in Blender are usually zip files. And while you're here, make sure to register and create an account because the plugin needs you to be logged into the website in order to be able to download assets into your Blender scene. You can register using your Google account. The next add-on we're going to download is AI Render. So look for AI Render GitHub. And here you'll see a link that says releases. So click on that one. The latest version is 101. So download this zip file. And now we can close the browser and let's open up Blender. Now we are going to install the two add-ons that we just downloaded. So go to Edit, Preferences, select Add-ons, and click on Install. And they should be in your Downloads folder. So first, let's install Blender Kit. So select the zip, click on Install Add-on, and then check the box to enable it. Click on the drop-down and scroll down. And here you will see a section that says Login. So click on Login. And it will bring you over to the Blender Kit website. I'm going to log in with my Google account. And select Login and Authorize. That will connect Blender with the plugin. Click on the hamburger icon and save preferences. Click on Install again and select AI Render, Install Add-on. So do the same. Check on the box to enable it. Click on the drop-down. And here you can see there's an update option. So if you open it and click on Check Now, it will connect to the GitHub repository and look for any updates. But this is the latest version available. And if you check the Setup section, you'll notice how we want to connect with Stable Diffusion. So click on the drop-down and we have 4 ways of connecting. One is using Dream Studio Cloud. With this option, it's going to connect to the Dream Studio website and render online, but it requires credits for you to render. And also you will need to generate an API key that you have to copy and paste. Since we got our own server of Stable Diffusion running in our system, we are going to select this one, the one that says Automatic 1111 Local, because WebUI Forge is a derivative work from Automatic 1111, a more optimized version of Automatic 1111, so it's completely compatible. There's no option to connect with ComfyUI. So that's why I ended up using 2 versions in the end, ComfyUI and WebUI Forge. ComfyUI whenever I need to do like very quick things with the nodes and stuff, and WebUI Forge also to render images, but mostly to be able to render directly from Blender. So select Automatic 1111 Local. Again, click on the hamburger icon and save preferences. So now let's close Blender and don't save the changes. Now we're going to launch WebUI Forge and Blender. But for Blender to connect properly with WebUI Forge, it needs to be running in API mode. So we need to enable that argument. The same way we added the Xformer argument, go to WebUI, scroll down to your WebUI user bat file, right click, edit, and now enter a space. And now we're going to add -- or -- API. which means Advanced Programming Interface, and it's what allows the Blender plugin to connect with WebUI Forge. Save and close. Now launch WebUI Forge again. And here you can see it's running now two arguments. One is Xformers and the other one is API. Okay, now WebUI Forge is launched and running in our web browser, and nothing changes. And we are going to use the realistic vision model for our exercise. So select it and select your VAE file as well. You don't need to touch anything else here. Everything will be done from the Blender user interface. And launch Blender. If you click on your render tab and scroll down, now you will see an option that says AI render and a button that says enable AI render. So let's load our course file. So click on File, Open, or you can check from your Open Recent files, your Cabin Course 01, or the last version name you have saved. And I'm going to save as file cabin course 01 underscore AI render to know it's a different file. So now we're ready to render our scene using the AI render plugin. So if you go to your render options and you scroll down, you'll notice you have a section called AI render here. And I think the file has got it enabled by default, but if not, click on Enable AI Render. Since we have Forge running in the background in API mode, it should display a message saying you're ready to start rendering. So now let's check the options very quickly, but we should already be familiar with most of them. First, we have the change image size option. Here it's reading our size from our render. So leave it at 1024 by 1024. Okay. Now we have the prompt and the negative prompt, which we are already familiar with. The exercise file has something in. I got a modern farmhouse in the woods by a lake, blue sky. Negative prompt, we already know what to use here. So we got ugly, bad art. I think that one comes by default with the plugin. Now we have apply a preset style. If you don't have it enabled, click on the checkbox and you will see a picture show up. And if you click on the picture, you'll have different options. This is not selecting the checkpoint. It's a set of preset prompts that will add information to our own prompt. So scroll with your mouse and I'm going to be using photorealistic. And if you notice here, it says stunning photograph of prompt, natural light, highly detailed, etc., etc. That information will automatically be added to our prompt. The checkpoint will be the one that we select here in Stable Diffusion. We are going to change it to Realistic Vision and load your VAE file. Let's continue. So now we have random seed. We already know what it does. So let's click on the checkbox to enable it so that we have different renders every time we render our image. Image similarity is how close you want the result to stick to the rendered image. The higher the value, the more similar it will be, but it will take longer to render. Let's leave the value by default 0.4. Steps, we already know the steps. Let's leave it at 30. Prompt strength, mouse over here, and it says how closely the text prompt will be followed. So again, a higher value can overcook your image. Let's leave it by default in 7. Sampler, click on the drop down and you'll see the different sampler options available. Here it's detecting the ones we got in WebUI Forge. Underneath the sampler, we have the control net section. In our course file, it's enabled, but if you're working with a new file, I think it comes disabled by default, like this. So click on enable. And now it says control net will be used for each render. In front of the preprocessor, click on the refresh button, as well as in the model button, click on the refresh. And you can drop down and see which preprocessors we have available, as well as the control net checkpoints or models. Basically, it's also detecting all of the ones we have installed in WebUI Forge. For our exercise, we're going to use the depth path, so select depth meters. And from the model, select depth FP16 for SD 1.5. Now we have the upscaler options. It's got a 2.0 value, so it says the resulting image will be 2048 by 2048. And from the drop down, you'll see the different upscalers available. If you don't see anything here, click on the refresh button and then you can select the one you want to use. In this case, we're using RESRGAN for X, so select that one. And finally, you will see a section that says animation, and this is one of the coolest features we have with the Blender plugin, because in Blender you can animate a camera and then you can generate an AI generated animation. We'll see this in a minute. So now we're ready to render, but before doing so, scroll up to your film section and make sure transparent is disabled so that we don't have the alpha background, but the trees information in the background that will help us in the AI image generation. Do a very quick checkup. So check your prompt, check your negative prompt, check your style, a random seed because we want different images. These values by default, your sampler is okay. Enable control net, depth midas, and the model should be okay. Upscale by 2. Very quickly, check that WebUI Forge has realistic vision and your VIE file selected. And now go to render menu and render image, or press on F12 to render. It's going to do the normal sample passes for our render. And when the samples are over, WebUI Forge will kick in and do the AI generated image based on the control net we defined. So basically, it's an image to image process. Now that the render is over, you will see that WebUI Forge kicks in and it starts loading the model. And if anything else is required to be downloaded, like the upscaler or the control net preprocessor, it will do it in this step. So the first time it might take longer. And if we go to our render view, now check this beauty. And it was completely generated from within our 3D software. If you click on image and save your image, so go to image, save as. By default, it saves all of the AI generated images into your local temp folder. So go to your model renders, and I'm going to create a new folder, right click, new folder, AI renders, and save that image over there. So go to your model renders folder, AI renders, and check the size of this image. This image is 2048 square, and compare it in size to the other renders we have been generating. We can also do the upscale process in WebUI Forge and ComfyUI, but having the option to do it straight into Blender is a very good feature. So now let's take advantage of the 3D software and let's generate a second view of our project. To do that, in the top view in Blender, you don't need to click on the view you want to work in. By simply placing your mouse, you are already working in that view. To make sure you're in that view, you can do Control Spacebar, and that will maximize the view where you have your mouse pointer. So if I have it in my camera here, Control Spacebar. If I have it in the outliner, the same will happen. And Control Spacebar again. So in the top view, I'm going to select the camera and I'm going to duplicate it using Shift D and place it with your mouse somewhere around here. Click on R to rotate the camera and point it to the house, like around there. And to look through the new camera we just copied, click on Control, Numpad 0. So now we can adjust the camera. So click on R to rotate it and frame your scene better. And from the camera view, now we can also do G to grab, press on middle mouse click, and you will see the blue line in the normal direction of the camera, and move your mouse out a little bit until you have the camera where you want it to be. So to do something more radical, go to your stable diffusion, and now we're going to set the checkpoint as flat 2D Animarch to get a cartoon image generated. And before rendering, we are going to learn how to use the other plugin that we installed, Blender Kit. So go to the Blender Kit website, So as I mentioned, BlenderKit is a site that creates optimized assets for Blender like models, materials, HDRI images, and scenes. So click on models. From the filters, select free. BlenderKit has got a lot of free assets that are very, very good, but the paid option, which is a subscription-based option, offers a lot more. And I encourage you to use the subscription option when you can to support the project. Here, look for tree and click on search. So you will see all of the results have a tag that say free plan. So we're going to import this first tree that I like it a lot. Now click on get this model and click on copy link and go back to your Blender file. So after installing the plugin, this new bar is showing up. And if you click on the eye icon that is closed, you will see the tree is ready to be imported into our scene. So just click on it and the tree will be loaded into our scene. And we will have a new layer created here called tree. In Blender, the layers that you see in the outliner are called collections. They're very useful to organize our scene so that we can turn things on and off. And also from here, you can select the layer you want to work with or the collection, right click and select objects from there. So now with the tree selected, click on G to move it and place it somewhere around here to the right. In the camera view, click on numpad period with the tree selected to focus on that object and orbit and make sure it's on the ground. So click on G to grab and Z to constrain and move it down until you see it touches the ground. Go back to your camera view, numpad 0. To make the tree a little bigger, click on S to scale and move your mouse or drag your mouse out and click where you are satisfied with the tree size. Now let's duplicate this tree and put it on the other side of the house, like around there. And in the camera view, numpad period to focus on the object, orbit, and make sure it's touching the ground, which it is right now. And go back to camera view. In top view, click on R to rotate it to have a little variation there. Okay, so now before we render our new scene, let's do a quick checkup, which is a good practice before rendering. So check your prompt, modern farmhouse in the woods by a lake, blue sky, okay. Negative prompt is okay. The preset style is photorealistic. We are using a random seed to get different images. And the sampler is okay. The control net is enabled and the preprocessor is def betas, okay, check. And the model control net def, upscale automatically by 2, very good. So we are ready. The last thing we're going to check is WebUI Forge. And remember, we switched to flat 2D Animerge to generate a different image and to make sure the connection is real between Blender and WebUI Forge. Save your scene and click on F12 to render. Okay, so now Stable Diffusion is doing its trick. Here it's doing the upscaling process, and here we go. So now we have a totally different generated AI image with the trees we just imported using BlenderKit, and the result is simply lovely. So I'm going to save this image, so click on Image, Save As, and remember we have our recent folder AI renders, and I'm going to save the image over there. I'm going to go back to my realistic vision checkpoint for the rest of the exercise, but think of the possibilities. From now on, you can do as many views of the project you like, generating new cameras, and you can do any variation you think possible by changing the prompt, all of the things we have practiced before. And you can also download new checkpoints to test. So the possibilities are endless. If you want to go between your different cameras, all you need to do is select the camera and click on Control numpad 0, and generate a new scene. In this case, if we generate the scene again, we would have the tree information. So I'm going to very quickly generate a new image here. I'm going to duplicate this tree with Shift D and place it over here as well. R to rotate, numpad period to focus on the tree here, G to grab, Z to constrain, place it on the floor, go back to the camera, Control S to save my scene, and F12 to render a new image. Very good. So now we have a new render with the previous camera and new information like the tree. So I'm going to save this image and go to your AI renders folder and click on save as image. And if we check our folder, check how nice the image has changed simply by inserting those trees around. And since we have the seed set to random, they are a little different. Quite an interesting tool to use. In this step, we are going to check how to do animation very quickly. So to do that, we are going to select the first camera, make sure we are looking at the image through this camera. Here in the next tab called Output, set first the frame rate to 30 frames per second. And here in Output, we're going to define where we want our render frames to be. So in AI renders, I'm going to create a new folder and call it animation frames, and click on accept, because the animation process, basically what it does, it renders frame by frame, and then we will put them all together as an image sequence to output a video. So besides that, click on RGB 16-bit, and also we are going to define the start and end frame over here. By default, it's going to say 250, but the animation we want to do is a quick pan from right to left of the camera, and it's going to be an 8 seconds animation from this angle to the opposite one on the other side. So 8 seconds times 30, that's 240 frames at 30 frames per second. So the end frame is going to be 240. Click on enter. And it's the same as setting them down here. Start one and 240. And here you will see the timeline. You can scroll with your mouse, or with your arrow keys, go to the right key, left key, or if you click on Shift plus right key, you will go to the final frame, and Shift and left key will go to the first frame. So make sure you are on the first frame with the camera selected, and click on I to insert a keyframe. And notice how a blue dot got generated in frame number 1. And also here, you will notice we have some new information in yellow. In yellow means that it's animation information. So with your mouse on your timeline, Shift right click to go to the final frame. And now in the top view, we click on G to move the camera around there, R to rotate it around there, and in the camera view, click on G and middle mouse click to bring it out a little, like around there. If you notice, we just passed by the other camera we generated for the second view. And with your camera selected, click on I again to select your second keyframe, and you will notice a new yellow dot gets created in frame 240. So now if you move with your mouse, you will see we have an animation created over there. To quickly visualize it in the viewport, click on the play button or press on the space bar. Okay, so Blender has taken care of all the in-between frames. So now we are ready to render. Go to your render tab. Make sure you don't have random seed selected, because we want the frames to be as consistent as possible. So everything from now on will render using this seed image. The control net is enabled, and we have depth meters and depth for the model. And scroll down. Disable upscale automatically because we're going to render a 1024 by 1024 animation. And if we enable the upscaler here, it would take a lot of time to render all the 240 images. Now, all we got to do here in animation is click on the folder and point it to your animation frames folder you created before, and click on render animations 240 frames. You will notice that now we have a tip recommending to change image similarity to 0.7 to have the rendered image closer to the reference image, but I'm going to leave it at 0.4. AI animations, as you can see in YouTube and other sites, are never perfect. You see like this flickering effect that makes it feel like artful and nice looking. So don't expect the AI animation renders to be perfect, but it's going to be an interesting result. So I'm going to leave it in 0.4 and click on render animation 240 frames. Now the process is going to be a little bit different. So we're not going to get each image rendered and the output shown to us, but everything is going to be done in the background. And when it finishes rendering one of the frames, it will place it back into the animation frames folder we just created. Okay, for the sake of this exercise, I had already rendered some frames before when I rehearsed the lesson. So I'm going to show you from my other exercise the result. I didn't have the trees in this version, but you'll see very quickly what I mean. I encourage you to run another version with 0.7 in image similarity to see how much it sticks more to the reference image. But anyhow, I think the result is very, very interesting. Now, to put this image sequence together into a video, you can use Blender as well, because Blender has also got a video editing option. And I'll be sharing with you this tutorial I captured to do that with another image sequence. So now for the next and final part of the lesson, we are going to do an interior render. For that, we're going to launch a second instance of Blender. So double click on your Blender shortcut and delete everything from this scene. Select everything with A and delete. And now let's go to Blender Kit again. But this time, instead of looking for models, we are going to look for a scene. Filters change to free. And basically what we're going to do, I'm going to go back to our scene in Blender. So what we're going to do in our scene, from the outliner, I'm going to hide the trees. So unselect them. I'm going to hide my roof from the collection. So on 3D roof, on click. And I'm going to hide the second floor, which is 3D P2. This 3D model was organized by floors to show stuff to the client. This space over here is the kitchen, but for the sake of the exercise, we are going to place like a living room over there. And to do that, we are going to use Blender Kit to import a scene already created for us. So let me show you something else very quickly here. In Blender, if you click on Numpad 7, you will be in the top viewport, top orthographic, Numpad 1 front, and Numpad 3 right. So click on Numpad 7 to make things easier when we import everything here. Go to Blender Kit and look for living room. Click on search. From the scenes we got, I used this one, coffee office bar, which is not a living room, but it will offer us some nice results, and you will see in a minute what the AI does with this image. Click on get this scene, copy link, and go to your second instance of Blender running, and you will see here it's ready to be imported. So click on the preview. From the options, leave append and click on OK. So the difference between using a model and a scene is that the scene has got all of the required information ready. It's got the camera, it's got the lighting, it's got all of the models separated. So to look at the scene from the camera, click on the camera and click on Control Numpad 0. Go to the render options here, and it's already got cycles and GPU selected. So now let's save this scene. I'm going to place it in my model folder, and I'm going to create a folder called Blender Kit, and inside of it a folder called Scenes, and I will save it as Coffee Living. If you want to look very quickly what this scene looks like, click on Z and rendered option. So the lighting is ready, the camera is ready, the materials are ready for us. Now what we're going to do, we are going to copy the elements we require from this scene and paste them into our Blender course file. So I'm going to select the floor, click on H to hide it because I don't need it. And we don't need the walls and the ceiling as well. So I'm going to click on the walls and click on H to hide. But notice that the countertop is stick to the wall. So Control Z to undo. We're going to do a quick trick here. Select the walls again. Click on Tab to enter edit mode. Clicking Tab will enter you in and out of edit mode. And from these icons over here, select the third one, the one that says select mode face, and select the upper face of the countertop. We're going to duplicate it with Shift D and right click your mouse to release. And with the face still selected, click on P to separate it and click on selection. Tab out of edit mode. So now you can click on the walls, and also you can click on the face we just separated, and it's going to be a different object from the walls. We are going to use the extrusion command to generate a new countertop for us. So with the face selected, click on Tab to enter edit mode, A to select everything, and the extrusion command, press on E and start dragging your mouse down. So in Blender, we can do this with snaps, but for this exercise, simply bring it down until you are close to the bottom and click again and tap out of edit mode. Now we can select the wall and hide it. And these are the objects that we want to use in our Blender scene. It's not probably a living room, but the AI will do the magic for us. So now select everything with A, Control C to copy. And in the top view, click on Control V to paste the object. Once they're pasted into our scene, you'll notice they are all scattered around the outliner. So while you have them selected, we're going to place them into a new layer or a new collection. So click on M, which is Move to Collection, and click on New Collection. And we will call this collection Coffee _ Living. And click on OK. So now we can also turn on and off this collection. And we can right-click and select all of the objects, or you can simply select one of the objects in the collection and click Shift-G to select Grouped and select the option Collection. It's the same. Control Spacebar to maximize the view. Now we're going to use G to move this collection into place. Click here. Middle mouse to get closer, and we're going to place it close to this wall and this window here. So G again to grab and place it as close as possible. We don't need to be exact in this case. When you have the objects there, Alt A to unselect everything, and now we have our interior objects ready. Now, if you orbit around, you will notice that they are not placed on the floor. Similar to the trees, we're going to do the same process here. So select one of the stools or any object in your collection, Shift-G, Collection, and G to grab, Z to constrain, and move them down until you see they touch the floor, like about there. Now we can turn the second floor back on and the roof. From the Coffee Living collection, select your camera and do a control numpad 0 to look through the camera. The next option we're going to change, with the camera selected, go to the camera icon here, the green camera icon, and change the focal length from 50 millimeters, which is very close, to 30 millimeters, and click enter. And now we have a wider angle and visual of the scene. And finally, the render we want to generate for this interior is a parallel view to the countertop. So now we're going to learn how to reset the camera orientation and move it into place. So with your camera selected here, click on Alt-R. Now the rotation is reset to the default values. In the top view, click on R, X to constrain, and type in 90 degrees. And now we are looking at the front of the back wall. And again, click on R and start dragging your mouse to the left. And if you can see here in the upper left corner, you will see we have a negative value. So type in minus 90 degrees, click on enter. And now I'm going to close this preview. And in the top view, I'm going to click my camera and place it about here. Okay, so now in your camera viewport, click on G to grab, middle mouse click, drag out until you have something a little further away of the countertop, and click on G again and move your mouse around until you have the view you wish for this scene. The last thing I'm going to do, these two objects are outside of our ceiling. I'm going to click on this element and shift click on the other one inside of it. And notice we will need to move them in the Y direction, the green direction. So click on G to move, Y to constrain, and move them inside of the ceiling about there. Many of the elements, we are not going to see them. I don't care because, as I mentioned, the AI is going to do the magic for us. So now let's go back to our camera view. And we are ready to render, but as usual, always check your settings before rendering. So go back to your render tab. Let's do a quick checkup prompt on Modern Farmhouse in the Woods. That prompt was for our exterior scene. So let's change it to something like modern interior, minimalistic, beautiful lighting, 8K for the camera resolution, wood and concrete, IKEA style. So wood and concrete will suggest like the materials to use, and IKEA style, I don't know if that's nice or not, but it will give the AI some ideas for the rendered image. The negative prompt is okay. The preset style, photorealistic is okay. The sampler is okay. Control net is enabled. We have depth meters and the depth model. We are going to do an upscaling by 2. And finally, let's check Forge to see we have realistic vision selected. So now click on F12 to render. Okay, so as you can tell, this render took a lot longer to render because the interior scene has more information, more lighting information, more material information, more meshes information, and the render speed will depend on your video card and the hardware you got. After doing the sample pass, now we have our first interior rendering. So congratulations. Now you got your first interior rendering generated by AI and also generated using a 3D model that you can control. This is very powerful. I always mention those words, having the possibility to use your 3D software to make AI images is simply amazing. So I'm going to save this image as AI renders. I'm going to call this interior 01. So some final recommendations. In the case of the exterior image, we could have used MLSD, as the image would be comprised of mainly lines, vertical and horizontal and diagonal lines. So MLSD would have been like another option to experiment with. But in the case of the interior, remember that MLSD doesn't detect curved surfaces. So here the lamps and the chairs, They got a lot of bevel. They're very circular and spherical shapes. So for the interior, definitely we should go with the depth control net approach. Okay, so now if we go back to our renders, model renders, AI renders, notice what we have achieved today. And to me, both workflows are valid. You could simply render your images in Blender or any 3D software and then bring the reference image into WebUI Forge and start generating over there, or in Comfy UI. Or you can take like the more straight approach of rendering directly from within Blender using the plugin. One big plus about the plugin is the animation possibility. On the next lesson, the final lesson, we are going to do several things. We're going to talk about a stable diffusion in a little more technical way now that we are familiar with all of the terminology. We are going to move our Comfy UI installation out from the Krita version we have into our local installation so that we can get rid and delete the Krita AI installation. We will learn how to connect Krita now with our local installation and verify it's working. And I will show you very quickly one of the most interesting uses that you have in Krita. And finally, I'll show you another use of Blender 3D with the AI Render plugin. So again, guys, congratulations for making it this far. I would love to see some of your renders and see you guys in the next lesson. Bye.